All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. It's Sunday evening over there in Ireland. Sunday afternoon here in. I got some feedback coming in here, Keaton. But we got a great show. I'll take care of this in a second.
All right. Yep. Owner of OTT Wrestling coming on.
Yeah, so Joe Cabray, quite a big
Probably one of
guest
our
coming
biggest
in,
ones
huh?
yet.
Yeah, this is going to be a great conversation. I'm really looking forward to this. I just got to find where this I think I fixed it. There. If I can find it. Yeah, if there's another window open somewhere, it ends up bleeding in. And I think I got it. There. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Takes care of that. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the late start. We just had some glitches that we were ironing out. And we got them all worked out. So, Keaton, as you know, I wanted to make a mention too before we get Joe in here that with NWF Forward, as you know, the big news. Your own Ricky Henry, the Canary Kid, will be joining me on that show as my new co-host.
Awesome. That's going to be good.
Pretty exciting stuff, huh? And that's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to that. And so he's going to do me a promo up for Rewind. So that on our Rewind show next week, we'll have a little teaser promo from Ricky. He's going to do something up for his future involvement. He's going to miss out with Sean Hernandez, though, and LAX because I have him coming on in 2 weeks. But Ricky can't make that one because it'd be 2 a.m. on a school night for him. He can't do that.
Yeah.
So, otherwise, I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah, it'll be good.
And let's bring in our guest then, Joe Cabray with OTT Wrestling. And we can get started with Joe here on our show for you. There he is, Joe Cabray. Welcome in.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And Keaton, I don't know a whole lot, so I'm gonna just kind of let Keaton ask the questions here, and then as I get questions from our viewers, I'll bring them in, and I'll also have a few of my own as we go. So, Keaton, it's all yours, buddy.
All right. So, Joe, what was your early life like growing up in Dublin?
Say again, sorry?
What was your early life like growing up in Dublin?
I had a great childhood growing up in Dublin. Wrestling was a massive part of my life as a child. I was hooked from an early age. My earliest memories would have been Andre the Giant. So, that's kind of how far back I go in wrestling. So, I had a great childhood. Dublin was a great place to grow up in, and I grew up in the city of Dublin as well. So
were you aware of wrestling at a young age, obviously, then, yeah?
yeah, as I said, my first visions of wrestling was seeing Ravishing Rick Rude and Andre the Giant standing in the ring. So, what a great introductory.
And how did you first get into wrestling then?
I was a massive fan. I never really considered training, but I got talking to an Irish wrestling promoter, and he was explaining some of the difficulties. And he said one of the biggest difficulties we have is that we don't have an independent scene here in Ireland. We don't have any independent wrestlers. So we got together, put our heads together, and we decided to create a wrestling school. I didn't really have any interest in training myself, but I decided then to just give it a shot. I found it unbelievably difficult, but yeah, that was basically how I got my foot into pro wrestling.
And Keaton, I'm just going to bring in a couple comments before we lose them. Joe88 here in the house, one of our regulars. He says, OTT, the best wrestling company in Ireland, North and South.
Thank you.
And also we've got, we got Canary Kid here. He says he loves you too, Brovo. And JGT says he went to your show. I don't know if he's referring to OTT or with Canary, but yeah. And then also Wrestling Insider just commented, says Andre the Giant hoodie is cool. What are you all wearing? So I sees your hoodie that you got on.
Mm.
So yeah. So that's most of our comments up to date. So now OTT Wrestling, that's from what Keaton tells me, is the biggest wrestling company in Ireland, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we're expanding into across Europe. We've done wrestling shows in Italy. We've done shows in the UK and Ireland as well. So, hoping to do more as well with more announcements coming later in the year.
Sure.
And who trained you in professional wrestling?
Who trained me? So as I said just previously, there wasn't a scene in Ireland wrestling, so we had to build a scene. So you didn't have kind of former old school wrestlers that were living in Dublin or around Ireland. So we ended up making contact with a person who had trained at the Hart Family Dungeon for a while, and he basically came back to. I think he was based in Cork, and he would travel up to Dublin, and he started coaching us, and pretty much gave us like our fundamentals in pro wrestling, and then the rest was just picking it up as we go. Doing seminars for us was like really important. Getting to pick the brain of a former WWE star or something like that was really valuable to us as young people coming into the wrestling business.
And what kind of wrestlers did you train with in seminars?
Oh wow! But I mean, like when I broke in, Sheamus was in the very first class with me, so
Awesome.
would have got to train with Sheamus and stuff. And in terms of seminars, I remember doing seminars with D'Lo Brown, with Raven. I'd try and get to as many wrestling seminars as I could. But we didn't have as many as we have now. Nowadays, like there's great wrestling seminars every weekend, but it was kind of only every occasion if there was a big time wrestler in the UK that we were able to get into Ireland to do a seminar.
And what was your debut match in front of a live crowd?
I remember my debut match. It was quite nerve wracking. I'd put so much emphasis on going out there and performing and being a great wrestler that I didn't think of having to walk through the curtain for the first time and have 300 people just look at you. So panic set in backstage. I was quite happy with how prepared I was for the wrestling aspect, but little things like that kind of last minute kind of anxiety. The match went really good. It was with Red Vinny in Dublin, Mount Temple. It was actually just in July, I think 20 years ago. So yeah, that was my first match. Fond memories. Yeah.
So here's a question from Canary Kid for Joe. He says, what's Joe's favorite memory of his career?
Wow. I think I've had so many achievements as a promoter as well that kind of like go into that. So maybe as a professional wrestler, though, my greatest achievement, I suppose, was getting the FedEx from WWE to get a contract there. It meant that I was kind of, kind of seen in 2012, I think, or 2011 when I got the contract that I was, regarded. So that was probably the best moment of my wrestling career, even though it wasn't even in a ring. As a promoter, I would say selling out the National Stadium in Dublin for the very first time was a really good memory and a fond memory, and I think it really helped Irish wrestling in general.
And you said selling it out?
Yeah, so we had Kenny Omega in the books in Dublin for one night. It was 2,200 sellout. It was the first time an Irish wrestling company had sold out such a big venue. So it was really good, and I think it set the scene on fire for the next few years.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, a big crowd like that. So yeah, that's quite that's quite an accomplishment.
How many people were there?
2,200. I mean, our very first show, I think we had done 300, and then to go to one day to doing a show in front of 2,200 people. I think maybe 3 years later was impressive, I suppose.
And so, what's your favorite show he's ever put on?
I like the last Scrapper Main that we just done there a few weeks ago. To see the Irish talent as well, to see that we'd created a scene so much that we didn't have to rely on American import versus American import. We were able to create so much intrigue by having Irish wrestlers perform against, the top American wrestlers was an achievement. But then also to see, Be Cool and Trent Seven in the main event, in kind of like an all Irish OTT main event, was something very special, and it kept the crowd's investment to the very end. So I think it was a great achievement by all involved.
Yeah, and I know you done some seminars with quite famous wrestlers when you were in WWE. Who did you train with?
Um, the performance center at the time when I was there, and I think it still is, was kind of used as a rehab facility as well. So like guys that were just about to get back on the road, from injury would come down there a lot, and that's where they'd start training because they have to get rid of some of the ring rust as well. So I mean, just passing through there was Undertaker, Big Show, Rey Mysterio, all the top guys at some point had come through the performance center, whether they were just visiting it or because I was there from the very start. I was there from the opening day of the performance center in Tampa. So, so many of the top guys came down to the performance center. But my coaches would have been. I primarily would have worked with Bill DeMott and Norman Smiley, both of which were really good coaches. Very different coaches, but both very good.
So I got a question here, Keaton, from the professional. We'll bring it in. He wants to know, as wrestling has gone on, gimmicks have started to fade away. Nowadays, people work as themselves. How can someone stand out to you just being themselves in the Irish scene? Just talking from a wrestler's perspective.
I think it's very hard to be just yourself unless you're incredibly naturally charismatic. I think everyone needs not so much a full on gimmick, but everyone needs a persona. I mean, I always say to people, like, what would be your T-shirt? I mean, some form of your identity should be able to go on a T-shirt. You have to. It's like at the end of the day, the wrestling business is the entertainment business. There's very few people coming to wrestling shows to watch really good wrestling. People just want to be entertained. So, you should find something in your persona that you feel you can entertain the audience with. And as you just said there, if everyone's going out there today and being themselves, well, then maybe there's room for another Sam, or there's room for another kind of Be Cool, or you don't always have to go out there and just be yourself. Thinking outside the box, I think might help you.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot. You have to finding your character and really bringing that out and bringing it forward. It's part of your personality in wrestling, and you need to have that. It's wrestling's two parts. It's in the ring and it's also your character. So
yeah, absolutely.
Here's a question again from Canary Kid as well. He wants to know, what does Joe prefer, promoting, performing, or coaching?
I'm not so much. I don't mind performing. It's not like I like performing when I was really, really active in wrestling and doing it every weekend. So maybe that would be the least. Promoting I find very rewarding as well. Kind of helping people's career along the way is very rewarding as well. And I love coaching. I like helping people that have a passion for wrestling and people who have a dedication to truly making it. That's what kind of fuels me on as well.
And then we also have one other one here from Connor Brady. Says, nearly sold out for the anniversary show as well this year. He says, can Joe tell us who Finn and JD will wrestle?
It's up in the air at the moment. Me personally, I've been inundated with requests for that match. I think everyone across the indie world wants to have that match because they know the eyes of WWE will also be on that match as well. So it's very much up in the air. We are in, we're just reviewing as many as we can and see. We'll take the best from what we can review.
And then one more, Keaton, and I'll let you go back to your questions from Joe88. He says, are Joe and OTT looking forward to Comic-Con this weekend? And can you tell us anyone we can expect at it, like Jay, the Sam, or the Session Martina?
Yeah, really looking forward to Comic-Con this weekend. It's always a great weekend. Really good energy as well. And I love just walking around Comic-Cons in general, so it's a win-win for me. I'm not too sure as our final lineup this weekend. But it's going to be an exciting weekend, and we will only bring you the best anyway. So, yeah.
All right, Keaton, go ahead and fire away some more. We'll let some other questions build up over here.
I'm going to Comic Con too, so I heard there was rumors about it not happening. Loads of people on the Facebook group of Comic Con were saying it's not happening.
Which isn't the Comic Con or the wrestling?
Comic Con.
I've not heard that. I mean, I spoke to them only just a few days ago, so no, I don't think so.
And so how did OTT start then?
OTT started. We started it as a way of showcasing the great Irish talent that we have, not just down south, but also up the north. It was about bringing wrestlers from the best wrestlers from all over Ireland and showcasing it, and also having a platform for the Irish wrestling fan base that enjoy good wrestling, a place where they could come and see the best wrestling that this country has to offer. So that was the reason as to why we started OTT. We felt like wrestling wasn't being showcased properly here, and there was too much talent to just not showcase it properly.
And speaking of that, Keaton, I'm going to let you keep asking, but I'm going to bring us into our watch long screen so we can watch some of the OTT highlights as well as a match with Joe. So let's take a look at some of this, and we'll just keep asking away here as we go.
So then, how did you were? Yeah, I heard you say before. In one of your interviews that you don't think there's too much good Northern Irish wrestling team. Would you ever bring a training ground to Northern Irish wrestling, like bring your own training centre?
Sorry, what did I say about the Northern Irish wrestling scene?
Well, I could have heard it wrong, but I thought you said before that that you didn't think the Northern Irish wrestling team was decent. Would you ever bring your own training centre to Northern Irish wrestling?
It's not that I don't feel that the Irish wrestling scene up north is, I suppose, is very much unguided. There's not too many very good wrestling schools there that I could recommend, unfortunately. Yeah, I just think it needs somebody on that scene that's really going to drive it and help the young guys. But at the same point, the young guys who are up north that really, really want to train, I mean, it's not that far to get to Dublin. If they truly want to, train. But yeah, we had got plans to open up the school up north. It's just taken so long at this point. A bit of an undertaking as well because just things are so busy with OTT. But we'd love to do it in the future, yeah, for sure. And not just kind of improve the scene up there, allow better training and better coaching.
So what happened to OTT's developmental company, Respect
Wrestling. We never had a developmental. We had Respect as their moniker for Irish wrestling. Maybe that's what you're.
Yeah, that's what.
So basically, our guys train at the School of Irish Wrestling, and that's how they have become the performers that you see today. Respect is a big thing in our school because at the end of the day, if you're training to be a wrestler, you are putting your lives in each other's hands, so there has to be a fair level of respect there.
And guys, I'm just going to give you a Joe 88 can clarify that, Keaton. I'm going to bring this in. He says WrestleRama is what's canceled at Comic-Con, but Comic-Con and OTT through the day are still going ahead. He says never believe posts unless Comic-Con say it themselves. So there's some clarification on that.
Joe is correct on this one.
Yeah.
So are you the main coach at OTT?
It would be myself and Paddy Morrow would be the top coaches there, and I think myself and Paddy really complement each other very well because we come from different backgrounds. We were brought into wrestling differently, but as I said, we complement each other really well in terms of coaching. What I don't focus on, I think Paddy has a great focus on, and the things that Paddy is not so much focusing on, I think I kind of cover up. So I think we're a great team, and I think that's why we have produced the best wrestlers on the scene.
And do you have a creative team to help you with producing the wrestlers and things like that, like a creative team for storylines?
I do now, yeah. Up until a few years ago, pre-COVID, I was pretty much doing it all myself, but now I kind of work with a team because I think it's good to have different options and different viewpoints and stuff like that.
Indeed, true. And who do you think's the best person you've ever trained on OTT?
I mean, there's so many. If I start naming on people, it won't be fair. But there's just so many naturally gifted, talented people, and not necessarily they're not the most athletically gifted people, as you can see there.
I
But
was
maybe
gonna
maybe
say,
they have
Joe,
a
this
great.
is I was telling Keaton, this is very much like almost like an ECW atmosphere at these shows. Very energetic.
This was the old Tivoli theater, where it was just people on top of people. So the atmosphere was great, and I think as well, the ceiling was just the right height, so it kept all the energy in the building. It was. It became quite a famous venue for wrestling, but it's been unfortunately torn down now for a hotel.
I noticed it's almost like a dim lit, like it's not all bright lights. Like it's very like almost like a dark, dim lit like setting for the
Yeah,
match.
this is actually kind of like a nightclub, and I think this is the second show that we did for this is from the second OTT show, so this is like maybe 2014. And we're just kind of getting used to the building. The lighting became much better for future shows, but right here it's not too good.
But I mean, it kind of gives that vibe, though. You know what I'm saying? That's what I
Kind of
meant
gives
by
that
that.
grungy,
Yeah.
yeah, that grungy vibe, yeah,
Yeah.
of indie wrestling.
And Joe, how do you pick who gets on a show?
As I said, it's kind of like now a booking team that I kind of speak to a few people on. So yeah, it's kind of like a collective decision, really. But basically, I do have the final say.
And what's the key to becoming a good wrestling promoter?
I would say book wrestling that you like. Book wrestling the fans want to see. That's the biggest downfall of wrestling promoters today is that they book wrestling. They book their wrestling shows from their tastes, and they probably book wrestlers from who they like as opposed to who should be on the show. They're the biggest downfalls of a wrestling promoter is booking emotionally. Yeah, that's what I would say makes a good wrestling promoter, and working hard. It's hard work. You can see there that there was try and promote wrestling the way I do it, and they just can't because I suppose I outworked them.
So I got a question here from the professional, and he wants to know, what style of wrestling do you believe is the most entertaining to watch?
I suppose there's so many styles of wrestling. I mean, comedy wrestling. I don't like the crazy, lazy comedy wrestling, but comedy wrestling is good to watch. And then you just have like kind of the spot fest matches, which are, really nice to kind of look at sometimes as well. But my favorite matches are kind of like the storytelling matches.
Kind of like the old days where the match would tell a story in the ring.
The old matches like that
Yeah.
kind of you get a story from start to finish, and yeah, I think that's what kept my interest in wrestling for so long is that I like that style.
Sure. And also we have, I guess Louise Lundy is asking, does Joe Cabray believe in Joe Hendry?
Not yet.
Not yet. And then Canary's got another question. He asked it twice, so I'll bring it in. I don't want him. He wants to make sure you answer this one. He says, I would just like to ask Joe about Joe's statement about the Northern Irish scene. What does he believe is missing with the schools?
I think what's missing is that I think the thing that we hold an advantage over the rest of the schools is that we have a lot of experience. I trained in a performance center. Myself and Paddy Morrow have toured with some of the top wrestlers in the world. Like we've toured with Bret Hart, with Sid Vicious, with Rob Van Dam, with Booker T. We spent time on tour buses with these guys. We've wrestled these guys. We've wrestled in front of 5,000-6,000 people. We've wrestled in live TV. We've done pay-per-view. And I think that experience kind of like help. You've gained so much knowledge from just being on traveling with some of the top wrestlers in the world. But not just myself, it's a bunch of collective minds as well that are kind of working together. I think it's very hard when it's just one person in charge of a wrestling school. The School of Irish Wrestling is a collective of a wealth of experience. I think we've had some unique kind of opportunities, I suppose.
Sure.
And do you have a most memorable match that you've had?
These early matches for me in the Tivoli, like that one that you just watched, was nice because it wasn't too stressful back then. But my later on stuff in OTT just became very stressful. So this is one of my most recent matches. I don't think I've watched this fully back. This was in Spain, Barcelona, maybe last year. Started this year. Early Tivoli matches would have been my memorable. Later on, my Tivoli matches were very stressful because I had to produce the show. I had to make sure that everything was kind of running well.
And how stressful is it? Really stressful trying to promote shows while doing wrestling at the same time? How are you able to like kind of blend that in, doing it both?
Well, I know I did it there a few weeks ago, but you can't really blend it. Something suffers, so that's why I was telling you, like my matches in OTT were too stressful because the shows got bigger and my matches got bigger, so I couldn't do the two. That's why I kind of stopped wrestling on OTT.
And who's your massive breakout star on OTT?
I suppose like Jordan Devlin, Session Ma. I think we've produced a lot of great talents for the RC and LJ Cleary. Yeah, I think there's been a really good base of Irish wrestlers coming out in the last few years.
So was LJ Cleary a student of yours?
Yeah, well, LJ Cleary would have like. Here's the thing: nobody gets onto an OTT show unless they're in the School of Irish Wrestling. So yes, LJ would have trained extensively with us. But LJ also would have got much better because OTT in itself would have allowed him to wrestle some of the best wrestlers in the world. That's where you really learn. When you get to wrestle in there with Cardona or Dolph Ziggler, that's where you learn the most.
And how did you manage to get OTT so big with such a loyal following?
Because I have a great team behind me, a team that works very hard, and I work very hard. I work very hard as a professional wrestler, and I work very hard as an independent promoter. Yeah, hard work, I suppose.
And Joe, there might be some background noise coming on your end. I'm not sure. It sounds like there's some static coming in. One of our commenters is commenting. Just a FYI. It could be feedback from like volume if you have a volume on
No, I can turn my telly off.
That could be what it is. Usually things like that sometimes can interfere. Let's see. We got a couple questions here Keaton I can bring in. Scenic Spots is asking, what's the most far-fetched storyline that has actually worked?
In OTT or in wrestling?
Well, he's just asking in general, but I'd say OTT. Let's focus on that.
Our storyline that worked. There's probably something really obvious and I can't think of it. Powdered spot that we did there last week at Scrappermania, where the referee got hit with the powder and he took down everybody in the ring, I think was a crazy idea, but the audience loved it. So we're always up for kind of trying new things.
Yeah. And then Professional says, asks a question. Bring it up here. What did the average day at the WWE Performance Center look like?
It was quite stressful. So at 6 a.m. every morning. Was at 8. You had to be there at 7. So you were up at 6. You were at the performance center for 7. You were on the floor 8 to train for 8. We trained from 8 till 10. We had an hour's break, and then we did about 90 minutes of strength and conditioning. And then you would go home. You'd probably eat some food, let it digest, and then you would go to do the gym, your own bodybuilding workout as well. Because the strength conditioning stuff was a bit different to the bodybuilding stuff. So kind of normal day, and then just sleep because your rest is so important.
Yeah.
And in your opinion, what's the top 3 best OTT matches ever?
Devlin, Walter, the one where Walter beat Devlin, I think was amazing. The Bucks versus Osprey, Leo Rush. Smile, I think, was probably the second best match. Third match. Maybe the Devlin Walter rematch, maybe.
Stepping on the fingers and then stomping on them.
I'm just pacing myself in this match.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of.
So what was the build-up like?
Rare match did I do? Say again, sorry?
Sorry, what was the build-up to that match like? This match it's on now.
So, this match happened 7 or 8 months ago in Barcelona. Wasn't really taking bookings at the time, so probably the first match I'd done in like maybe 4 months. And it's hard when you're not in the ring regularly. So I was pacing myself a lot. I'm not sure about my gas tank, basically. So a lot of it is just trying to entertain the audience any way you can. And the audience are very entertained by me here to this woman in the front row.
Is that
So,
a fan
whatever-
or is that like a planned situation there?
Turns out it's my opponent's mother that I didn't know at the time. I thought she was just a fan.
And so OTT's had some really big stars on the show, like not Zach Ryder, Matt Cardona, Mick Foley, Pete Dunne, etc. Just name a few. Who's the next big stars you're getting on?
Well, obviously we have JD and Finn Balor next in October, so that's probably one of the biggest gets we've got. John Moxley, I think, was a really big get for us. Mick Foley, so many greats that have come here. Liger, to have one of Liger's final wrestling matches as well was an honor as well. So we've had Will Ospreay so many times. So yeah.
You had some big wrestlers. That was one of Liger's last matches, then.
Yeah, Liger was finishing up. I think we got him in the final year of his career.
Yeah, he's really good.
So here's a question, Keaton, from Joe88. He says, who would you like to see compete in OTT ring that hasn't male and female? So in other words, somebody who hasn't been in there yet, that's male and female. He just wants to know who you'd like to see compete.
I think Jeff Jarrett would be great. I'd like to get Slamovich from TNA. I think she's really good. So that's my male and female in there for you.
And in your opinion, who has the best character in all of OTT?
I think fans love Be Cool the most, but it's not really a gimmick. It's just kind of personality put on loudspeaker, which is, I suppose. The M's gimmick keeps on evolving, and it just keeps getting more and more interesting. So that's been amazing to watch as well. So, yeah, they're the ones I'm kind of, and the BDE guys as well. I think have been really entertaining.
Now, is this an OTT event here, or
No,
is this a different event in Spain
no, this was for Resist in Barcelona,
or
which
Barcelona?
is
Yeah.
the fans are really high here. Really atmosphere.
Yeah, they seem to be very engaged here. Take this.
But the thing about wrestling in Spain is that they're not accustomed to paying for wrestling shows, so they just have a donation, and you
Oh,
can donate money to see the show. Yeah, same in Portugal, which is really weird. Fans just aren't accustomed to paying for wrestling shows.
And am I right here that you used to run a wrestling company over in France?
So we were based in Ireland, but we would do wrestling shows throughout France, Germany. We've done Romania. So yeah, they were the shows that we would do with, Rob Van Dam, with Booker T, with Scott Steiner, with Sid Vicious, with Bret Hart. So yeah, we do tours all around France and other other parts of Europe.
now would you have to like join up with other promotions over there to get the ring and stuff like that?
No, we were basically a touring promotion, so we would do our dates that were maybe like 6, 7 hours drive of each other, and basically we'd have a load of buses on the road with us.
Okay.
So the ring would leave the night. The ring, and the tech guys would travel through the night on sleeper buses, and we would stay at the hotel, and we would get up maybe like 8 o'clock in the morning, and we would drive to the next town. These tours were typically 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah.
Uh, who's who's so if a wrestler came over to your like to stay like a famous wrestler such as McFoley or someone like that, would they stay in their own hotel or would they stay in your house?
Stay in a top hotel. Yeah.
So would you book their flights over or nothing? No.
Yeah. So when you book a wrestler, you agree at terms, and the terms usually include booking a flight and booking a hotel, then paying their fee.
So how much would you have to pay them to bring them over then?
A lot of money.
And I imagine it's all over the place depending on who it is too. So, you know.
I mean, sometimes it gets quite expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. And then speaking of paying wrestlers loads, I think I saw one of the a video that Big Demo's your highest paid wrestler.
I don't know where you've seen that.
It said on one of them that he gets paid 88,000.
I'm not
No,
sure. No.
so not true.
Well, not from OTT anyway.
And then here's a question from the professional. He wants to know: in the PC, did you attend the skull sessions? If so, was there a specific way they would break down matches?
Yeah. So when you're at the performance center once a week, or maybe at least once a week, you would have a skull class. A skull class just entails either watching your own match back or watching, a high level wrestling match by two of the best, and then you know whoever was given the skull class, whether it be Norman Smiley or whether it be Bill DeMott, they would point out why these things are so important to do in wrestling matches, and why they paused here for a second here, and why they did particular things in the way they did. So that's what kind of the skull classes were. Sometimes it was you'd watch a match back that you'd had yourself, and a coach would dissect it, would say, this was good, or maybe you need to rethink about the way you've done this, and it would be better if you did it this way, maybe try it out this way. So, yeah, that's kind of like what the skull classes were entailed, and they were incredibly important as well to becoming a good professional wrestler.
And I'm going to an OTT show soon, a couple of weeks away, I think it is, in Sheriff Street. What should we expect
Nice.
for this one?
Well, we'll have Big Damo on the Saturday night, which would be really good. He'll be probably making his first OTT title defense. I don't know if we've announced that anywhere else. So, but yeah, we can expect to see a king and a queen of the ring, on those 2 dates. It's going to be a really good weekend of professional wrestling.
And then Canary's asking, how often does Joe look at other Irish promotions or other promotions in the UK in order to give opportunities to talent outside of Dublin?
So someone else asked me this recently as well, and to be very honest with you, a lot of it is word of mouth. It's basically 2 or 3 wrestlers coming to me and saying, "Hey, you got to check this kid out," or "This guy's been really good." But basically, that's the way it works. There's a lot of you got to impress your peers. I remember Bill DeMott saying that to me in NXT. It's like, how do you get out of NXT onto, the main roster? And he was like, you got to have someone be an advocate for you. You got to have someone that's going to go to the top guys and say, look, take a chance on this guy. Now, at the same point, if they take a chance on you and you don't do so good up on the main roster, well, then it makes that person who vouched for you look not so good. So someone's got to be really, really comfortable and believes in you to advocate for you. So it's the same in kind of indie wrestling. There's a lot of ways of getting onto shows is basically having somebody who has a good record saying to a promoter, "Hey, you got to check this guy out. He's been really good." Or, yeah.
And then also Joe88's got another one. He says, "Will Belfast still ever get our chance at a big OTT show now that WrestleRama has been canceled?"
It's possible. It's just finding the right venue. Couldn't do Ulster Hall. It's just extortionately expensive. So it's just about finding the right venue. That's the problem across Ireland in general. We'd love to go back to Cork. We'd love to go back to, other parts of Ireland. It's finding a venue that's doable.
And here's a good one from Connor. Connor Brady says, has a wrestler ever came up with a spot for a show that Joe has said no to?
Every show. Every show. Yeah, there's some, you have to, if you just allowed everyone to go out into a show and do what they wanted to do, it would be insanity. There probably wouldn't be a second show. You have to have somebody there that has a control on what's going out there in front of the live audience. And that means sticking to times as well, which is very important. But every show, someone will come up to me and say, "Hey," just walk into a wrestling show that has a balcony and see how many wrestlers are coming up and say, "Hey, I bags the balcony," and everyone of them just gets told no one's coming off the balcony. So,
you're right.
Yeah.
And I know Session Moth Martina is one of your students. How far has she come from day one to now?
Well, she's done some great things. I think she's seen most of the world. She's done Japan. She's done, Australia. She's traveled the world. She's done the States. So, yeah, very proud of her. And she continues to make great strides in wrestling.
So, Joe, how often are shows being done then with OTT? Like, what's the kind of the normal schedule of shows? Like, how frequently?
We kind of we'd probably be running about 2 to 3 shows a month. Not so much during the summertime, but so for instance, this month we have 4 shows. We have 2 days at Comic Con, and then we have 2 days in Sheriff Street. And then in October we have a show early October, I think, that hasn't been announced yet. We're just confirming the date. And then we have 3 shows in the end of October, which is the 26th in Dublin National Stadium, 27th in Belfast, and the 28th will be in Wexford.
So I know here in the United States, when it comes to summer months, a lot of people are out traveling outside doing things, and we find that the fall and winter months, cooler months, generally seem to be better. Is that the same with Ireland?
Yeah.
As far as shows?
As well, but the problem with Ireland as well is during the summer you just have so many concerts and you're competing against so many other different forms of entertainment. It's really hard. So we usually just stick it to maybe 1 show a month in, the June, July, August, and then come back stronger in September and all the way through.
And is it the OTT on demand? Is that where people is that where you get your following to as far as how they know when shows are coming?
No, so our website is OTTWrestling.com. That has all
Right.
the information, and the OTT on demand is our VOD subscription service. So if
Okay.
you sign up there, you can get all our new shows that are coming out in the coming months. And you can also get the entire back catalog, which has, I think, almost every OTT show. There is
And
a few missing that weren't recorded, but mostly it has the whole history there.
do you do your shows live stream there as well when they're or is it just pretty much recorded and put on there when after they're done?
Yeah, we record them, but we do have a very high turnaround. So I think we can get them out in maybe 2 days, 2 day delay. We don't
Okay.
really do live at the moment because I just don't know if it's cost effective to go live, and I don't know if there's much interest in live, high pay-per-views and stuff like that. So,
Sure.
What's it like the week building up to a show?
it's not as stressful as you think because I've been doing it for nearly 20 years. As I said there recently, I was doing tours in France in front of 5,000 people, and tours that were lasting 3 weeks. But it's because I've been doing it so long, I kind of just know how to go along with the flow, and I need to know exactly what I need to do and stuff like that. So just keeping a record and ticking the boxes as I go the way to is the way I do it, and it's not as bad as you would think. It can be quite stressful, but most of the time it's fine.
Mm. So, with your international guests, are you getting much over apart from JD and Finn now?
We'll see. We'll see if we can impress with this appearance, and hopefully we can get more. But for now, this is all we have scheduled at the moment.
And then Scenic Spots is asking, will Finn and JD be coming to OTT Belfast?
They won't be, unfortunately, because I think they're needed for Raw on Monday, which would mean that we'd have to fly out on the Sunday.
Okay.
And so on the next OTT show, how many people do you expect to be there because of Finn and Damien? No, Finn and JD.
Oh, I mean, the sell-out is 2,200, and I think we've like 40 tickets left, so we're there.
So you think you're definitely getting the sellout?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And who's in your whole experience in professional wrestling? Who's the best wrestler you've ever faced?
I just always felt really comfortable in the ring with Paddy Morrow, and I think everyone would kind of say the same. He was just so good. He was another kind of fellow Irish wrestler. But I did have the privilege of being in the ring with Pete Dunne and Will Ospreay at times. Will Ospreay is just phenomenal. So yeah, they would be, some of the best guys I've ever, been in the ring with.
And do you go out and celebrate after a show?
Me, not particularly. I don't really drink, so I've never been a big partier. But for me, being a promoter, I mostly have either get people back to the airport, or I'm, thinking about, how do I get the ring back to here, or just logistics. So, no, unfortunately, I very, very seldom get to just go home and chill out after a show.
And Louise Lundy asking, can you take a chance on Judas?
Probably not.
So there's a
Whoever
no.
Judas is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here's another one from Joe. He wants to know, is there an update about the injury of Be Cool, and will he get the shot OTT title when he returns?
Last I heard that he was possibly getting keyhole surgery. But I haven't spoke to him in a few weeks, so I will check in with him soon. I don't know if he gets the first title shot when he returns. There might be there might be an order system there.
And then Generina, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but they want to know, are there any plans for an improvement on the women's division?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have to improve on the women's division.
So there you go. That's all my questions, Keaton, for now.
Yeah,
So go ahead and fire away.
Well, speaking of women's wrestling, I seen a really good match on OTT. Debbie Keitel versus Sasha Martina. It was not even, it wasn't all that long ago, a couple of months ago. What What was built up to that match? Like, how did you make it so good?
I think the girls made it so good. Both were very dedicated to making the match mean something to the fans, and they both really worked very hard in the promos. And I mean, we can bring the horse to water, but we can't make them drink. But the two girls did an absolute blinding job, I think, of creating intrigue and going above and beyond to make that match special.
And so, in your opinion, what's the top three best shows ever on OTT?
Wow. I don't know. I think all the stadium shows have been phenomenal. I think there's some really good vibes as well to those Tivoli shows, or the Tivoli shows as well that we did. So you could probably be entertained by any of those shows. But I think our stadium shows are probably some of the best that we've produced. And the Wolverhampton shows have also been quite amazing as well. They're on our VOD.
What's the worst injury you've ever got in wrestling?
Um, I wouldn't say it's more just an accumulation of injuries. So my hips are quite bad. Causes me a lot of issues, and that's just not. I don't remember ever there being. Well, I do remember very early on getting a hip injury, but it was just an accumulation over time, unfortunately. So my left hip is quite bad. But yeah, other than that, though, I got away very, very lucky, especially with the style that I did.
Joe, have you found that a lot of guys that have done this over the years, they tend to, the abuse to the body adds up after a while. Have you had any of those kind of situations where you feel that the wrestling itself has added to some of your pain you have today?
Yeah, especially as I said with my style, I kind of wrestled for my size. I kind of, I do dives to the ropes and power bombs over the top rope and stuff. So I wrestle quite a hard style, but I think, as I said, though, I've been very, very blessed. I got away very, very lightly, especially with the amount of matches that I did. I was very, very busy in my wrestling career. Like I wasn't, someone that was wrestling three times a month. I was pretty full on. But yeah, just the hip injuries and my shoulders kind of like getting some wear and tear. But other than that, I got away quite lightly.
Yeah.
And how did you get the shoulder injury? Was it just over time, just keep bumping, or was it because of an actual injury?
No, it happened to me in Poland. I was wrestling Joe Legend and I went to do a dive through the ropes. And I wasn't too sure if I was going to make it because this ring was kind of small and the ropes, they weren't as, the ropes weren't as far apart as they usually would be. So I remember saying to Joe Legend backstage, I don't know if I'll get this. And I used to have this, I was doing this Omen gimmick. So I had this big kind of wig and mask on. So I was like, I don't know if I'll make this dive. So I decided I'd go for the dive, but I decided to go for it really hard. So if I did get caught, at least I'd be able to still get through. Well, nothing. I glided through these ropes. The ropes didn't touch me, and I went over Joe Legend's head. And his hands went up to catch me, and he kind of caught my waist, Dirty Dancing, and then we both fell backwards. To stop myself from coming down my head, I put my hand down, and my shoulder just popped up. So that was the start of it. But I wrestled for probably about another 10 years on that same shoulder, and now it's really getting angry. But just some good physio has kind of really helped me as well. It's not too bad, though.
Yeah. And then I got some questions they're asking about some wrestlers here. Let's see what he's. Jeremiah says, any plans to bring back Speedball after his fantastic Scrapper weekend?
I love Speedball. Speedball has been a part of OGT since back in the Tivoli days. We tried to get him for the anniversary show, but unfortunately, it clashes with a TNA pay-per-view, so not possible. But yeah, anytime we can have him back, we love having him.
And then Joe's asking here, will we see Mark and Vicky Haskins back?
Yeah, I'm sure maybe at some point, yeah.
All right. And then Wrestling Insider got a question. Says, Joe, do you have a signature move or a finisher?
My finisher would have been the same as Misawa's Emerald Frozen, so that was kind of the one that I kind of decided would be my finisher. I mean, all the good finishers have been done by somebody, so you're going to steal from somebody, steal from Masawa.
And what's the age limit for wrestling in OTT?
The minimum age to train at our school is 16. Just because you have to have, your body has to mature enough to where it can take the kind of the punishment of taking bumps and hitting ring ropes. So yeah.
And do you allow under 18 to compete, or do you wait till they're 18 but before they have a match?
I mean, if someone is really talented and they started when they're 16, and by the time they're 18, they're good enough to have a match. But like either way, it's probably going to take you 3 or 4. Like realistically, like I know there's wrestling schools out there that'll give you a match in 6 months, but if you're in a ring after 6 months of training, you probably are not there to where you should be. Like think about it. Like if you're training for 6 months, that's only a handful of sessions. It's not sufficient for you to have a match. So in OTT, like realistically, you're probably going to be training for about 1.5 to 2 years before you get a match. Because you have to be safe. Safety is the key. We want everyone to go home in the same way that they arrived. Sometimes wrestling schools don't have the interests of who they're training as the forefront.
And just to put it in perspective, then, for training for that length of time, is that once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week?
At our wrestling school, we are training. Our school is open 3 times a week. Sorry, 4 times a week. We don't train on Saturdays, which is the usual day that we train if we have an event. But yeah, our school is open, so people are, can come on. I'd always recommend maybe two classes a week is probably sufficient. 3 if you want to just really, start nailing stuff down.
Mm-hmm.
And what local wrestlers are you from Northern Ireland are you planning on getting on OTT?
We'd love to see Tucker back. Big Damo was Belfast's very own OTT champion. Damien Corbin, I think, has been a standout. So there's. I suppose we just got to get more familiar with the people on the indie scenes in Northern Ireland.
And what's it like to have one of the OTT guys, Damien Corbin, being on AEW there?
Oh, it's every time you see, our guys going off and doing great things, it's very rewarding.
Especially like Jenny McDonough, Lara Valkyria.
It's amazing, and Valkyria as well as to the experience that she would have gotten OTT rings as well, and kind of helping her career along has been rewarding as well.
Must be.
And then I got a question here from Paula Davison. Can Adam Max be next in line for OTT Championship? I think he deserves it.
I'd love to know why Paula Davison believes that Flex deserves it. Maybe there's a question for Paula to ask for Paula there.
And you've came through some really good OTT champions. I've seen loads of them. Who do you think is the best OTT champion, men and women? Like both men and women.
I think the best OTT champion has been Jordan Devlin. And I can't decide between Debbie Keitel and Seshima, to be honest.
Both are awesome.
I don't want to. Yeah.
And so, what's the funniest thing you've ever came across in professional wrestling?
I remember one time. I don't know if this story would be very funny, but I'll tell it anyway. I remember one time we were wrestling in a match, and I went to promoter and I said, "There's a big watermelon in the locker room. Would you mind if I smashed it over my opponent's head?" And he said, "Absolutely not." Now, this promoter wasn't the coolest promoter anyway. Like it still wasn't good what we did anyway. What I'm going to say anyway, we should have done it. So one of the guys turned around. We went back into the locker room and said, "Promoter said we can't do the melon." One of the guys was a real kind of shit stirrer. And he said, "Well, I'm going to put the melon underneath the ring just in case you grow a set of balls and want to use it." So I was like, okay. So mid-match, the crowd is dead because the show wasn't very good. And we decided to use the melon. But the watermelon. But what we didn't think is that when we hit the watermelon, we thought it would just crack. And we just thought it would crack and that would be it. And it'd be a bit of a ha-ha. When we hit the watermelon over the head, the watermelon exploded all over everyone, over the referee. Like, I have a picture of it. I might post it, but the watermelon just exploded all over everyone. We were destroyed in watermelon. The referee was destroyed in watermelon, and it was just one of those moments that I would never forget.
Well, watermelons, they're pretty hard too. Did he take a pretty good knock on the head with it?
He took a shot, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you plan? You've already had a retirement match, haven't you?
Yeah, I retired there last weekend, which is where I lost my tooth. If you can see there.
Oh,
Yeah, I took a
well,
knock in the mouth, and I have to get dental surgery. I took a knock in the mouth, and my tooth became loose, and then I ended up getting an infection. So now I'm in the middle of getting dental surgery. So sorry.
Yeah, dental stuff sucks.
Oh my God.
Yep, especially when you get our age.
Yeah.
So Joe's saying, um, what went through your head the night of Mox versus Be Cool and Louise, a fan stood up to Mox?
I don't know who I was more fearful for, Louise or Mox. That's the only thing I can say on it, really.
and who's the best heel and the best character in all of OTT?
I think the best heels I ever seen in OTT was the Zach Gibson. I don't think anyone ever had any heat inside a ring more than Zach Gibson. Um, yeah, I suppose watch Zach Gibson from OTT. If you have OTT on demand, just watch any of his matches from the Tivoli, and it was just nuclear heat. It was incredible to be in a venue like that and see so much heat. It was so good.
And I know John Moxley's normally a good heel as well.
Yeah, John Moxley's, unbelievable. The energy he brings when he walks to the ring is just insane.
And so, are you going to miss wrestling?
I don't know if I'll miss wrestling performing so much. I'll always be involved in some capacity, but I think I had a very good career. I've traveled the world for free, made it to WWE, traveled on tour buses with some of the people that I idolized as a kid. So I'm very happy with what I achieved, and I think I'm just needed more behind the scenes as opposed to in the ring.
And then
Um,
Wrestling Insider Keaton's got a question. Was it emotional at your last match, Joe? I shed a tear when the Undertaker hung up the boots. So, but he's asking more for your last match.
I thought it'd be more emotional than it was. It wasn't too emotional. Watching it back though later on, I kind of felt a little bit of emotion, just from kind of like the ovation that the audience gave me was really nice. But no, it wasn't as emotional. I thought it'd be a bit more emotional than it was.
And also, I won't bring it in, but Paula says that I don't know if that's a he or she, but they'll see you at Comic-Con with a list of reasons for flex.
a lot of wrestlers, when you watch documentaries, always say that when they see a professional wrestling match after they're retired, it's hard to watch. Was that what it'll be like for you when you're watching OTT matches?
I think I'll be okay. I'm not that much of an emotional guy, so I think I'll be very. I think I'll be okay.
And yeah, I think that was one of the best, well, maybe one of the best matchups ever with Justy, um, Angel Cruz, Be Cool, and you all in one ring against the Draw. So was it not awesome having them guys as tag team partners and then facing one of the best tag teams in all of Irish wrestling?
It was awesome, except Justy. Other than that, it was brilliant.
You not like Justy?
Not a fan of Justy. I mean, we have mutual respect for each other, but that's about it.
Who's the best young wrestler? I mean, like maybe young man, like 17, 18, coming up in Irish wrestling.
There's so many. I think John the Kid is quite good. I think he's from up that way. I know he's quite young. Um, but I think the problem is with wrestling, it just takes so long to get so good. So even if you're 16 years of age, you're probably still quite learning when you're 18 years of age or 17 years of age. So there's so many young people, but they wouldn't be 18. There's so many young people at the school as well that just show amazing promise and dedication as well. If you're not dedicated, I mean, I've seen it, sadly, I've seen people with so much natural talent, but they don't have the work ethic. And then you have somebody that doesn't have as much talent with an incredible amount of work ethic, and they just surpass everyone with the talent.
And what do you do outside of wrestling?
Wrestling's my life, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, I suppose. I run the school, so I run the Irish School of Wrestling. I'm there Monday and Tuesday. My daytime, I'm just kind of more doing logistics for OTT, doing bookkeeping, doing kind of upkeep of OTT, ordering merchandise, designing merchandise, getting posters ready for advertising. So yeah, I'm kind of lucky in that aspect that wrestling is still kind of like my full-time job.
And so OTT is actually your full-time job?
Yeah,
Didn't
wrestling in general, yeah.
And so would that have been your dream when you were a kid?
Yeah, I think that's everyone's dream as a kid. When I was first breaking in, I think there was only a handful of full-time wrestlers. I think it was Doug Williams, Johnny Storm, and Jody Fleisch, and I remember everyone wanted to be a full-time wrestler. Now it's a lot more easier to be a full-time wrestler, which is nice to see. But yeah, I suppose when you can call wrestling your full-time business, it's a nice job.
What advice would you give a young trainee wrestler?
Find a good place to train. Find a good place to train, because I mean, when you have a wrestling school for 4 or 5 years and you haven't produced any talent, I think that says a lot about your wrestling school. So, if you look at the School of Irish Wrestling, I'm not just because I truly believe in it. We produced so much great talent over the last 4 years, and we've so much talent as well coming through that we just haven't been able to put stories to, or haven't been able to just polish the gimmicks of. And we don't want to push them out there too soon and stuff, but like there's so much talent coming through, so yeah.
And what's next for Joe Cabray?
Just keep going and doing what I'm doing. Doing my school. We do seminars as well. We did a seminar last week in Sheffield, England. We have seminars coming up in Italy. We have seminars coming up in Barcelona. We have joint shows coming up in Spain as well. We have the anniversary show, the anniversary like kind of weekend. So yeah, it's going to be a busy few months, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, and thanks for coming on, Joe.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was great. Fascinating to learn all about your history and everything with OTT. And, we tried to get to most of your questions. If I missed any, I'm sorry, guys. There was a lot coming in for Joe. So, but I think I got most of them. So, yeah.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Keaton, I'm just going to go over some of the things that we got coming up on our future shows. On the next Kayfabe with Keaton, we'll start with that one. Dee Crooks and Sage Valentine will be our guests.
Two of the best heels in NIPW, maybe even in Northern Ireland, Pure Filth, Sage Valentine and Dee Crooks.
Pure Filth, yeah. So I'm looking forward. I haven't met these guys yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they're all about. Mm-hmm. And that'll be a great interview. And then also on our NWF Rewind next week, we're going to be doing studio taping 110 from the dry dock, first out of the dry dock. This was where Keaton, the league, kind of was transitioning from kids wrestling to more of an independent type situation. Still had some kids in it though, but not the little kids. The little kids were gone now. When I say little kids, I mean like our lightweights, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun show, and Dixie Dave will be with me again. So I'm looking forward to that. And then also on NWF Forward, which will be in 2 weeks, for a week from the following Thursday, it'll be Sean Hernandez, former TNA World Tag Team Champion, along with his young protege, Officer Smalls. And this kid's pretty good, Keaton. I got to say, I watched some of the highlights that I've seen of him, and a lot of Lucha Libre influence.
Lucha Libre.
Yeah. And Sean is starting a wrestling school, I guess, for young, he's really trying to push and get the young kids involved at an early age, and he's been
Yeah.
doing it since 2023. San Antonio style wrestling. So I'm really looking forward to this interview, and that'll be on the next NWF Forward. And as I said, I didn't have the graphic on the other page. I have it here. Your one and only, I should say, NIPW's very own Ricky Henry going to be joining me on NWF Forward starting September 26th going forward. So he'll miss Sean Hernandez, but he'll be on after that. And NWF Forward will be at a new time to kind of work with Ricky. It'll be 10 p.m. Ireland time is when NWF Forward will be. That's every other Thursday, so in between the rewinds. So that'll be a great addition to the show. You know what I like about this, Keaton, having Ricky? I like the fact that I'm bringing in the young generation to the show. People your age, right?
Yeah.
That can relate, to the era of young kids and teens getting involved at an early age. So it really makes sense. So, Ricky's involvement, I think, is really going to add to the show. I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully he'll put together a promo for us for Rewind. You can watch that on Rewind next week. We'll see what Ricky has to say. I'm sure he'll be in character, and it'll be a fun little promo he does for us. So, but great interview with Joe, huh? Fascinating show.
Very fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I was just, he's done so much, and for Ireland, really, and the fact how he's growing this OTT promotion, it's just incredible.
100%. I don't think anyone could really do that. The Irish wrestling that's this committed, and Joe, to be honest, he's very committed to wrestling in Ireland.
Oh, and before I got a comment here from Wrestling Insider reminds me, I want to make sure everybody understands that they're real clear. When I announced on our social media outlets about Ricky Henry joining Forward, I got a flood of IM saying, "What happened to Dixie Dave? Why are you getting rid of Dixie Dave?" Dixie Dave will still be with me on Rewind, folks. We're just talking about the Forward show. So I want to get that out there before I start getting any other comments. No, Wrestling Insider has a comment that said, having Ricky's perspective will be superb. He's such a cool guy. So, yeah. What do you think? Think he'll be good, or do you think we'll end up sparring and end up having to have that Crusher versus Canary match?
Well, I suppose that would get a lot of views on NWF Fast Forward if you just do a match and then you review it on live.
Yeah, well, if anybody could tempt me out of retirement, it's probably the Canary Kid, because he barks like I used to.
Oh.
He's not afraid of anybody. So that'll be to be determined. But yeah, so no, it was a great show. Now next week it's DD Crooks, or 2 weeks from now it's going to be DD Crooks and Sage Valentine.
Great, that'll be a great one. Probably the best heels in Northern Ireland, and DD Crooks, one of Northern Ireland's best wrestlers. Sage Valentine, up and coming in Northern Irish professional wrestling. DD Crooks is young prospect.
Yeah, and Sage Valentine, he's got that. He just complements DD Crooks. I mean, it just works with the two of them, right? I mean, they just for that image of pure filth. And I haven't met these guys yet, so I'm looking forward to it. And I seen your interview you had with DD Crooks on your channel, and he's almost kind of slides in and out of character, I guess you could say, during that interview, kind of like Ricky. So yeah, it's that'll be good. That'll be a good show. I'm looking forward to that one. These are always fun doing these joint simulcasts, and we're still working on it, guys. We're talking about Keaton and I are talking about doing a simulcast with a live or a live show out of the dojo or some other event there with NIPW, where we can do a live stream of a whole show where Keaton will be
awesome.
doing the play-by-play, and yeah, that'll be fun. So we're still working on that. That's still in development. We got to do some testing on that and see if we can make sure the signal works good. And so yeah, that'll be good.
Oh, it'd be brilliant.
Yeah. So all right. Well, I guess that's about does it for us. We're at our time limit here, and I want to thank Joe again for joining us, you, I should say, on your show. It was a great interview, and that's, by the way, that's his Twitter/X account under there. Make sure you follow Joe if you're interested at all on his Twitter account.
Yeah,
So,
so it was great interview there with Joe. He's great.
yep, it was. It was a great show. So again, folks, we'll be back. I'll be back next Thursday with Rewind, along with Dixie Dave, and maybe we'll have Jamie McParlin and Jeff Dinsmore join us on that one. I've reached out to him because I know Jamie and we have our match with each other, and it's Jamie's favorite match of ever. So I am going to try to get him to join me on that one. And Jeff Dinsmore, he loves the dry dock cards. What's that?
Jimmy McPartlin's Irish Terror, Jeff Dinsmore's Dr. Dread.
Dr. Dread, yep. And Jeff loves the dry dock stuff, and Jamie, of course, Irish Terry. Now, from Ireland, we represented Ireland back in the day, Keaton. What do you think, huh?
Pretty good.
Of course, Jamie changed his name to Ricky Vaughn a little bit later, but he changed his name so many times. Couldn't find his gimmick. But anyways, been a great show. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you guys next time around.